how to build an 8-figure sales team. This is 100% a free course. There's tens of thousands of dollars worth of value there, in my opinion. This is literally going to be everything I've learned from pretty much the past few years of being in this industry and doing what we've done and generating over 40 million in revenue. So strap on, buckle up, grab some popcorn, grab your phone or whatever, take some notes and just pay attention because it's going to be a doozy. Maybe you'll need a few sittings for that. I'm thinking it's probably going to be 2 hour long, but let's see and find out. Let's just rip and have some fun. So this is a 100% free course on yours truly. So enjoy. So the intro, the $1 million ceiling, right? So if you're a coaching business, you're doing anywhere from 100 to 500K a month, there's a good chance that you've hit a ceiling. Okay. So maybe you can't seem to crack the $1 million a month mark. Maybe it's like a 300K mark, like a plateau. And that reason is not your ads, it's not your offer or the market. Okay. Most times it's because you're still chief sales officer, or maybe your manager just sucks as well. So you're out there putting fires and slack throughout the day, you're spot checking calls, you're hiring reps without having a clear structure or system, kind of winging it, right? And your revenue is capped by your personal time and personal bandwidth. Now, my name is Jacob Mercier and I run a fractional sales agency that installs recruiting, tracking systems, management infrastructure, sales process for 7 to 8 figure consulting, coaching, service-based businesses online. So over the past few years, we've generated over 40 million in revenue for our clients. Just to go over a couple case studies. So we scale a crypto trading offer from 400K to 1.4 million in 4 months. Okay. So 4.4 million per month in 4 months. We also help scale a B2B loan officer coaching company from 600K to 1.5 million per month in a year and a half. And again, that's also while being in the worst mortgage economy in the past 3 decades. Okay. We also did a $2.17 million launch in 24 hours for a real estate coaching offer. We also scaled that same coaching offer from 100K to 450K per month in a couple of months. And we 2.5x a coaching offer in less than 60 days working with them. And there's many more, but just to cover our best results in a short time frame with certain businesses, right? So over the next 2 hours, I'm going to show you the exact sales infrastructure needed to help you scale to 10 million plus per year, 1 million plus per month. So what we're going to cover, okay, again, this is going to be a doozy. I'm going to go over the offer in a nutshell. Again, this is not going to be about marketing or the offer, but there's a few things I wanted to cover because they're still essential. So the offer, the marketing engine, recruiting and hiring, onboarding and ramp up for the reps, sales process, systems, sales management, culture, leadership, retention, and some case studies as well, and conclusion. All right. So first thing, the offer. So the offer, basically what I like to go over is just a 3S framework from Cole. Cole is awesome. He's generated a lot of revenue and got great results in the industry as well. So the 3S framework is pretty simple, right? So your offer, your service needs to be for a clear, specific person. If you're trying to help everyone, we're trying to help no one. So have a clear ICP. You need to solve a specific problem. So there needs to be enough of a big problem or desire in the market for that. And you need to have a specific solution. So that's your unique mechanism or the unique way that you solve the problem. Now, another big thing to talk about is your TAM. Okay, so your TAM needs to be big enough to work on paid ads. Okay, I only know a handful of businesses that have scaled to 8 figures a year just on organic referrals without any paid ads. Okay, so you need a market that is big enough where there's at least $50 to $100 million per year spent in that market. If not, again, it's going to be tough to get a good piece of the pie, an 8-figure piece of the pie. Needs to have at least 30 to 50K plus target customers. Ideally, you can create your customers. What I mean by that is if you do more of a biz op, maybe it's a health offer, you can create your customers with your marketing, your nurturing. You can take someone that maybe does not have a big problem and kind of create that awareness that actually they do have a problem or they do have a desire, and you kind of create them. So someone is not necessarily looking to lose weight, but maybe they see your market and they're like, oh, actually I could maybe get some help losing weight. Let me find out how they actually do this, right? So you can create your customers. So that's especially mass market offers, right? You can create your customers. Maybe they don't know about the solution, they don't know about those desires, and you kind of create them through your marketing. So you'll never run out of people to buy, right? You are in one of the big 3 categories, right, in your offer. So either you help with health, right? Wealth is anything money related, right? It could be B2C, B2B, like ROI based offer, and then relationships. So help people with their marriage relationships or anything touching those. That's more a smaller niche, but those 2 are way bigger. High ticket price points. So you charge anywhere from 3 to 20K. The higher, the better. But again, if you charge more than that, then maybe your total addressable market or your market for those tickets is going to be much smaller, right? Now, that's pretty much it for the offer. So you need to make sure your offer check those boxes if you want to be able to scale to 8-figure plus a year. Now, once the offer checks out, the next question is how do I attract, create demand for that offer. So that brings us to the marketing. Why paid ads is the path to $1 million plus per month. Paid ads is infinitely scalable if, again, you check those boxes here. It's more predictable, controllable, repeatable. If you crack like paid ads and you crack the acquisition process there, now it's just a math equation, how much money I spend based on how much revenue I want to generate, how many leads I want to get, and all those things, right? So it's pretty predictable. Organic is like really good, but I would see it more as a supplement. It's going to complement ads, but it's not going to be like your main thing, okay? Again, I know very few companies that have been able to scale multiple six figures a month just off of organic, and not 100K per month, but millions per month. Like I know a handful, like very limited, and it's hard to keep pumping out the content and have that going, right? So organic is going to help you persuade people in your marketing and build trust, but it's not going to be the engine. So it's going to help increase the ROAS, right? And with the ads, you want at least a 3 to 4x ROAS or more so that you can scale and you have room to scale, because as you scale, the ROAS is going to drop and you still have your cost of fill and everything, right? Let's go over the 3 funnels that I've seen. Those are the main 3 funnels I've seen to scale to $1 million a month. There's definitely more than that, but those are the main ones that I've seen. So there's a classic VSL application, book a call. Okay, so again, that's probably like the simplest one. You have your ads, push you an opt-in, or you could go direct to the VSL or application, right? You have your VSL, people fill out a lengthy application and then they book a call. And then setters call the opt-ins or the applications that haven't booked and help them book a call, right? So that's the VSL. This is best for cold traffic. It's best if you have a setter team as well, just to increase the ROAS and the throughput there. Easy to scale on Meta and YouTube, and then it scales nicely, okay? Now, the second one is low ticket ascension funnels, okay? So basically you have your ads, goes to a low ticket, typically anywhere from like $30 to $100. Then you have, usually you have some bumps to help liquidate spends, okay? So you have your one-time offer 1, then if they buy, goes to the one-time offer 2. And then once they're inside and once they just purchase, then you can push them to book a call, or maybe you wait until they're in the portal further away to have them book a call. If they don't buy, then you can have a downsell as well. Ultimately, the people that buy, don't buy the offers, maybe you have some abandonment in the carts as well, can push those to setters to have them book a call. And the people that buy all the offers that don't book a call as well, you can have the setters call the buyers as well, ultimately. So now you have buyers instead of leads. So again, this is going to help liquidate some ad spends, okay? And a lot of people I've heard are able to liquidate 100%, if not even be profitable on their lead acquisition. So basically they get paid money to acquire leads, or sometimes they'll liquidate up to like 80% of their leads. So that means they almost get free leads, or if they liquidate 100, then they get free leads, and everything with their high ticket offers or services on the back end is basically just pre-profit, right? So that's a really good spot to be in so that you can have some room and margin to scale. Now, to be able to crack that, that's a different ball game. So it's harder to dial in. So there's a bit more of a moat there. But once you crack this is a great angle to have as far as marketing goes, right? And the third one is live webinars and challenges. Okay, so funnel is pretty simple. There's many ways to skin the cat again, but you have your ads, push to an opt-in, sign up for either a live or a pre-recorded webinar, push to the webinar, and then on the webinar, you could have either a book a call to action at the end, or you can push them to a mid-ticket offer. It could be like $500 to $3,000 that they buy. And once they buy that, they can get the option to book a call for the ascension, or you have an implementation call, and then you can sell them higher packages. And the people that opted in, maybe they did not attend the webinar, maybe they attended but did not buy, we can have setters call those to book them on a call as well. So that's the webinar challenge funnel. Challenges would go over 3 to 5 days, but it's the same essence in the end. Again, those will have really high conversion. It requires really good like showmanship, someone that is good on camera, is good to deliver live, is good to entertain as well and keep people on. So yeah, it requires a really good person to do that, which it would be likely the face of the brand, which is the owner typically. It's more time consuming and it's harder to automate. I've seen some evergreen webinars too, but it's harder to automate, but it's a great mode since not everyone's willing to do that every single week or every month, and you need to be good live, like I said. It's great for lump sum revenue, and the CTA could either be to a mid-ticket offer or book a call to sell your high ticket, okay? Now, that's pretty much the 3 funnels marketing. There's other ways to make $1 million a month, but those are the main ones I've seen in what we do work really well at scale and consistently across different niches as well, okay? Now, once we have the marketing and we can create demand, now none of this matter if you don't have people to turn that demand into cash, which is the reps, right? So let's talk about the heart of the sales engine, which is people, which is recruiting. Now, as far as recruiting, okay, we have our who as well. So in the marketing side, we have our ideal client profile. and the recruiting, we have our ideal sales rep profile. Okay, so this is a term that was coined by one of my mentors, Dean. So shout out to you, Dean. But basically, it's the same as your ICP. Okay, so based on your offer, you have to think of who is your ICP and who's going to be the ideal rep to sell to that ICP, right? So who's my client? Who's my prospect? Who's going to be able to connect with them well? Like if I sell an offer to older people, like 60 years old plus people, would it be easier or better to have someone that's younger or someone that's older? Like obviously, again, it's obvious to me at least, someone that's a little older is going to be able to connect a bit more with them, and there's going to be more of a trust built than if you have an 18 years old selling to a 60 years old person. There's going to be a bit of a discrepancy between like the age of the two people and then the resonance that they have with each other. If I'm a 60 years old getting sold by someone that's very young, then maybe there's some things they can't relate to or can't understand my situation, depending again, right? Now, are they walking the talk of the offer? I'm selling fitness or weight loss program and I have a fat person on the other end of the phone. Your sales rep is a fat person selling weight loss to someone else overweight. Then again, as far as the trust side of things and then like congruence as well, if I'm a buyer and I have someone that's overweight trying to tell me how I'm going to lose all this weight by buying this service or this coaching program or those supplements, it's going to be hard to believe because the person that works for the company is also as fat as me, right? So just something there. Age, kind of touch on it, right? But if I have a bit older, more sophisticated buyers that are more like 40s, 50s, 60s, then I would want to have a rep profile that's a bit older, right? What was the experience before? Do they have experience in the industry that we're in? Or do they have experience with those kind of clients as well, or themselves with that kind of problem we solve? Again, not every rep are going to be great and do well in your offer. You can have a top performing rep selling a marketing service to accountant, and then you put them on a fitness coaching offer to sell weight loss. And again, those are two completely different industries, two different kind of sales as well, and problems being solved. And the results is likely going to be very different for that person. Some people could do well on those, but not everyone's going to do well on all offers, right? Also, another thing to look at, I look at my current top performers. I try to see like, okay, my current top performers, what is their background? What is their age? Are they male, female? Do they have some commonalities like they did sports in the past? Maybe they're ex-military, right? Maybe their previous career, they were restaurants, waiters. Maybe they were doctors as well because you sell something that's like cellular regeneration. Maybe you do again stem cell as a service, right? So again, there's a lot of things, but look for the things in common behind your top reps and then try to hire people that have those same backgrounds or those same commonalities behind it, right? So that's for the ideal sales rep profile. Now, as far as character traits, okay, you want someone that's hungry, coachable, that's a strong communicator, of course, when in sales, can handle the pressure, that's high EQ. So emotional intelligence, that's emotional caution. So they can relate and have empathy and connect with people. High IQ, if they are selling to more sophisticated people, maybe a more complex solution, then you would want them to have a higher IQ in those type of scenarios, right? So those are for the character traits. Now, as far as experience, if you're hiring more of a setter slash SDR, someone that's going to do like cold calling or maybe setting appointments. Again, it's not as required since they'll have more the beginning start of the conversation in the sales process. It's not as relevant for them to have industry specific experience. It's definitely nice to have, but not a must have. They really have a high work ethic. They're really self-motivated. And usually, again, the OTEs for those roles is definitely lower. So what I've seen work best is someone that's a little bit younger and they have fewer responsibilities in life so they can handle the volatility that can come with those kind of roles. And also they have less professional experience. So they're more like in their grind years because the setter role is, again, you dial like 200 people in a day, you get told to fuck off a lot. And again, it's not an easy role, it's a simple role, but typically those people are going to be less advanced in their careers and in their life. Right? So that's for the setter. As far as like the closer's experience, since they're on the tail end of the sales process, sometimes they run the whole sales process themselves. Ideally, you want someone that has some sort of niche specific experience, or again, if you have a more sophisticated prospect, then they need to know a bit more about the industry and the offer. Those are things we can teach, but it can be harder to teach and have them learn into that. Strong leadership, strong confidence in themselves, and you want them to have some sales and closing experience. Ideally, someone that close at least 500K or $1 million plus so that they have a track record behind them. Maybe they have some sales experience in a different industry. Again, at least as long as they have a strong sales background, that's definitely going to help on the closer side, right? So the closer or account executive side is the one that does the demo, has the Zoom calls with a prospect. Now, where to find the talent? There's a lot of places. can find talent. You can headhunt reps that are already crushing it, headhunt on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. You can go in your audience. So you have an email list maybe, or a database, you have followers. Again, the database is CRM. Current clients, it goes a little bit into your audience with people that bought your programs or services. And you can also get referrals from either current team members, current reps on your team, your network of friends. If you have a lot of people in business and a similar industry than you, roles are a great way to get reps. Ads, you can run ads. Meta, YouTube, Indeed, LinkedIn. I've heard a lot of people, I've never done it, but I've heard a lot of people get really good results with ads on Meta to get candidates for sales reps, and they have a cheap cost per lead in that sense. So this has been great for people. And you can hire a recruiter as well, pay per head. So those are all the routes. My typical picks are like my favorite ways of recruiting. Headhunting, hands down. I know someone's crushing it. I know someone could be a great fit for an offer. I need to make them an offer and reach out and see if they're happy or not where they're at. And I propose to them to work with me, or that this position might be better than what they have, right? So you need to have something better than what they have, otherwise they're not going to leave. So that's the first thing. I love current clients because they know already the company, they're already bought in the company, they got results, they have a high conviction that the process works, the service works. So at the end of the day, sales is transfer of trust, is a transfer of conviction and energy. So they already have a big piece of that, even if they don't necessarily have the most amount of sales experience. Those tend to do very well for the most part. Otherwise, your audience, right, they're already bought in to you, into what you do. They've been following you for a while, maybe. So that's a great way. And then the last part, referrals. I'd say the best way for me is like referrals. Again, it's harder if you don't know a lot of people. But for example, in my case, I know a lot of sales reps. I know a lot of sales managers, company, businesses, sales coaches. So again, my network is like really big in that space. And usually top reps know a lot of other top reps because they've sold in same companies or alongside each other. Maybe they took some programs together. So that's a great way to get some candidates, right? Now, how to recruit, full funnel breakdown. It's like client acquisition, but it's for talent acquisition. Basically, the traffic is where are people going to come through, which is basically the where. That's the traffic, essentially. Application. The application is going to be a full long form applications with a lot of questions. I'll get into it. Skill assessment. Then you run interviews or the interview, then you extend the offer, and then you onboard them. That's the funnel breakdown for hiring. So the traffic, again, it's basically all the above here, the where, and then we push those people to the applications. So that's the first piece. The idea of the application is like, how can I get the most out of people while doing the least on my end? How can I have the most amount of leverage and filter through as many qualified candidates in the most efficient way possible from a time commitment on my end, right? And just spend time and invest time in the potential candidates I like to consider the most because they're the best fits. So it's a long form, there's a lot of steps, and the goal of the application is to give you as much information as possible before meeting anyone, and also filter low quality candidates based on the answer, or maybe it's gonna be too long of a process and people are gonna self-select themselves out. So the questions in the application should reveal their EQ, right? Their emotional intelligence, past results in the sales experience that they have, were they able to accomplish, what kind of like results, time frame, what kind of offer or services have they sold, their sales philosophy, just to see if it aligns with how you like your sales team to sell, work ethic, compensation, expectation, like what are their goals, right? Ultimately, your service, your offer for salespeople is just a vehicle for them to hit their goals. So are they going to be able to hit those, right? Industry, knowledge, their goals, ambition, and their availability. So that's more like logistically, if you want full-time and they can just do part-time, then I'm not even going to bother going further. At the end of the application, I love having a Loom video at the bottom. This is a 2 to 3 minute video. And this is basically just to cover their experience, what attracted them about the role of the company, why you should hire them, give them an opportunity to sell themselves. And basically it's like what I look in the video, it's like how do they talk, how do they look, sound on camera, how do they sell themselves, and then are they a culture fit? Can I see myself or the rest of the team work with them or not, right? And the Loom is really a good filter situation before going any further with any candidate. So that's for the applications. Again, typically within 5 to 15 seconds of the Loom, I know if I want to go to the next stage or not. And the more quality applications you have, the better off you're going to be, because again, you have more leverage, you have less scarcity, and you can have more like handpick selection and be more picky about who you want to bring on. Again, here there's many ways to skin the cat. I'm just going over my preferences, right? And what you can do. Skill assessment, you can either review some sales calls from previous offers, services they've sold. You do a role play. You can also do both, okay? Now, basically the goal here is to evaluate what's their skill set, what's their logic, like how do they sound on the phone, how do they go about their calls with prospect, how do they go through the call and spot patterns, call them out, identify like potential objections and pre-handle them, or if they don't do anything about it, what's their frame, their leadership, areas you see where they could improve. Basically, where do they stand from a skill capacity before you get into having them represent you and sell for you and you put money on the table to generate leads for them. I don't care if the call closes or not. I really just focus on the qualitative side of things. How do they sound? What's their process and things like that. Personally, I prefer call reviews a lot more. It's higher leverage for me than a role play because I could listen to it on 2x. It's more convenient on when I listen to it. I can listen to more of them. And also they're always selling the offer. They're going to send me their good calls, right? So based on them sending me their good calls, it's going to tell me like how far up are they from a skill set standpoint, right? Now, and I can have calls from different companies, different services that they've sold. That's going to give me a wider range of things versus if I just dump them into a role play to sell my thing that they've never sold. It's just like one context, one role play. So I prefer call reviews on my end. From an interview standpoint, there's groups and there's individual interviews, right? Now, how to know which one to do. If you're not hiring very often because your team is small, I would do just individual and just be really selective on the application stand front and just meet individually with the people I really want to talk to. If you are hiring constantly, you're scaling hard, then the group interview is a very good leverage way of seeing a lot of candidates. And again, it's in a one-to-many environment, so it's more leverage to you. And then from there, you could either like hire directly from the group or you could move into the one-on-one interview afterwards. There's no right or wrong, but I'll go over the two and what you can do. Personally, I really like to heavily qualify or disqualify in the applications, and then I just do like one-on-ones. But if you have a lot of like hiring to do, then the group is a really good way. You could just do one group interview a month, one a week, two a week. And then you can have a constant, like steady stream of applicants and interviews going. So you always have your bench of people you can hire, right? So interviews, you have the group interview. Again, the goal of the group interview is to select who you want to meet one-on-one in a one-to-many environment. I would not recommend going past 8 to 12 people in the group interview because you're not going to have enough time to talk to everyone. It's kind of like running one-on-one interviews, but like speed dating in a group capacity, right? Really leverage. I just went over that. If you're hiring for a lot of positions all the time, it's great. I would pressure test the EQ and the tolerance to stress, high pressure environment, how do they think, how quickly they have an answer, how confident they are. And it's a bit more stressful for them to be in a group setting versus a one-on-one setting. So usually, again, the tolerance to stress and pressure will be more tested than a one-on-one interview, right? So I look for confidence, quick thinking, energy, coachability, are they a culture fit or not, industry-specific knowledge or experience, and any red flags to know. Now, individual interview, if I'm going straight from the skill assessment to a one-on-one interview, like I said, I would definitely vet a lot harder on the application stage before I get here. But it could be like your individual is going to be a bit shorter if you already met them in the group matter, and you can just dive deeper into what you would have wanted to cover further in the group interview. Basically, if you just do a group interview, then it's going to be more of like a 30-minute, more thorough interview, right? Again, make sure if you have had a group interview, make sure you address or ask the things that maybe you would have liked to go deeper with that candidate on the group interview. You expand on the application questions as well if there's some things you want to know further. And again, here, it's mainly going to be like behavioral question, situational question, and then just make sure they're really a culture fit for your business and they have the skill sets. Like it's like the final stage basically of vetting someone, right? So you just ask what you haven't gotten asked in the group setting. Again, I'm not going to go over like all the questions, but you guys get the idea. Now from there, once we did the interviews, we make the offer. So we extend the offer to the person you want to bring on or the multiple people you want to bring on. They accept it or not. If they accept it, awesome. You hire them and you bring them on. Now I really like the rule of two, meaning you always hire in pairs. If you need one full-time person, maybe you hire two instead of one. Reason for this is you kind of want to hedge because a lot of people are not going to make it through ramp up or are not going to make the cut by that stage. So I'd rather have two people so I can ramp them up accordingly. And then you keep the best candidate, the best performer. Maybe someone is going to stop showing up. Maybe someone is going to come in, realize it's not a fit for them. Maybe someone is never going to make it past KPI, so we have to cut them. And that is going to allow you to not have to start again the process because now you have two. If someone does not work out, you have another one, right? So it edges the risk. Now, as a bonus, you want to build a bench. So you always want to be recruiting even when you are not hiring, okay? So that means is you recruit, you have interviews, and then you don't extend the offer for them to join, but you tell them you really like them. You're not hiring anymore, but as soon as you're hiring, they're the next hire or they're X1 in line, basically, for your next batch of onboarding as far as that goes. Always want to have a few candidates. Again, this gives you leverage. So if you have current reps on your team that are underperforming, you know you can plug in someone new. You don't have to like hold on to them because you don't have anyone else. If the marketing ramps, then you can bolt some new people in very fast. So you don't have to lower the marketing, or you could just like ride that marketing wave and that increase in revenue. And if you have reps that leave, then you're not empty-ended as well. So that's for the hiring and recruiting part. Now for the compensation, there's a lot of things that could be covered. I'll just go over like the idea of things and how it can be done. So the compensation is going to depend really on your acquisition funnel structure, the economics of your business. So what can you actually pay out based on your economics? What's the ticket size? What's the price point? What's the volume? Now, basically, all I have to say, you want to create a comp plan that is good for you as a business owner, meaning it's not going to bleed too much in margins, but it's going to allow to create a good earning opportunity for sales reps that want to stay on for a long time and grow with you. So it's kind of like that sweet balance between the two. For closers, you want to target OTE minimum of like 80K a year, which is really on the low end, to 400K plus per year based on performance. I don't know a lot of reps that do more than that, truthfully, but again, the average should be able to hit anywhere from like 100 to 200K a year consistently. So that would be like 8 to 16K per month. Your top performer is going to be above the 16 and your bottom should be like close to that 8. Otherwise, they're probably way below KPI and you're not going to keep them around. So again, I gave a broad range, but you don't want to overpay where people are fucking making like 50K a month consistently, unless they're like fucking savage. Like you're probably overpaying, or maybe they're hacking the comp plan or something, from what I've seen at least. So that's on the closer side. On the setter side, OTE is like on the lower end, 48K a year. On the higher end, 180K. I haven't seen many setters do more than that. So average should be anywhere from 48K to 84K a year. Or you could do even like 100K a year. So that would be like 4 to 7K, 4 to 8K a month. Higher than that, again, either you have a really bad setter, maybe your offer is like really dialed and they're able to hit 10, 15K a month consistently, but I haven't heard that too much. And then lower than that, then lower than the 4K a month, you have a lot of churn, or you'll have to hire overseas, like people that are not in North America or Europe, for example. So again, your comp plan should align with the company goals and target. Now, as far as closers, industry average is 10% of cash collected. Now you can go and create a sliding scale based on cash collected. Anywhere from like, you get started at 8, you get started at 10, goes all the way up to 12 or even 15% based on either like a total weekly cash collected. So let's say they start at 8 until they hit 20K collected in a week, and then they can get to 10 after that. And then once they cross 50K, maybe they go up to 11, 12%, etc. Or you could do it on the monthly cash collected. If their monthly is past 100K, then now they get 10% and whatnot, you know? So again, it's more fancy doing it that way. It can be good. Usually it's like 10% cash collected, and then you have a bonus structure, but you can create that. For the bonuses, you want to make sure the bonus incentivizes the right behaviors. What I mean by that is people like sales reps are not dumb and they're after the money. So they'll do whatever it takes to meet the bonuses, right? So if you pay reps bonuses based on the amount of units they sell, for example, maybe they'll sell the lowest packages and on really long payment plans to make sure they hit their bonuses. So they check the bonus and it's not aligned with the business, because ultimately it's better for the business if people pay in full, if they have shorter payment plans, and if they sell the higher packages. So it's not going to incentivize for the right behaviors. Okay. So there's many ways you could do it. You could do it on total milestones, on cash collected, like those kind of things. So for example, every 50K collected in a month, you get a $500 bonus. So if you hit 100K, you have 1,000 bonus. You hit 200K, you have 2K in bonus, right? Every 10 deals you close the month, you get $1,000 bonus. Maybe you could do that as well. And I'm going to add the contingencies right after. So $100 bonus on PIFs, so incentivize the right behaviors, right, etc. So you could have a few of those, not like make too much, but those are simple ones. And again, I would add contingencies so that people don't hack the comp plan, meaning every 50K in cash collected per month, you get a $500 bonus if you have at least a 50% cash to revenue ratio, meaning collect at least 50% of the contract value in your month. Otherwise, you don't qualify for the bonus, right? Again, you could do the same thing with the deals. X amount of deals, you get X amount of dollars in bonus, but you need to at least meet those criteria, like cash to revenue ratio or cash collected per call book, or you can have certain KPIs like close rate and show rate of X, right? So there's a few ways you could do that, but I'd definitely add some contingencies. Otherwise, people are just going to act the comp plan as well. On the setter side, have a base plus percentage. You can do commission only, and you can have the bonuses too. So base plus percentage, if the lead flow fluctuates, is really up and down, there's no consistency. Maybe you want full-time discipline and admin compliance. If you want someone that's reliable, you want lower churn, then I would definitely consider adding a base to the comp plan. Again, it's like, what's the comp plan is going to give the on-target earnings based on the vehicle, the business that you have, the systems you have, the acquisition process that you have? That's really the question. So you could have a base of anywhere 500 to 2,500 plus 2 to 5% of cash collected. Again, you can mix it up. If the base is lower, the percentage would be higher. If the base is higher, the percentage would be lower. I'd be careful giving it too high of a base, because if you do that, then again, people can get lazy and complacent and not work as much because now they're comfortable anyway. They make X amount. Again, depends on the ticket size. It's based on the OTEs, and you want the base to be too high that they're comfortable just with the base, right? If you go commission only, again, your lead flow is more predictable, consistent, and you can do that if the counter's always full and they don't need as much financial security, that you could just do commission only, and then you could go 3 to 5% depending on the ticket size and based on the OTs as well. Now, bonuses to closers, you want to incentivize the right behavior, and it could be on milestones like total sets, cash collected milestones, total closed sets, total sets made. Just make sure you add some contingencies so that you don't get fucked over, and that, again, it allows the top performer to reach certain milestones and kind of dangles a carrot to the others so that they want to work a little harder at the end of the month to make sure they hit them, right? So that's for the recruiting compensation plan. I know we covered a lot already. You can maybe put this on pause, grab some water, and come back. By the way, if you are a coaching or consulting service-based business and you're already doing 100K plus per month consistently, and you want this entire recruiting engine deployed and installed in your business without you having to build anything, click the first link in the bio, see if you're a fit. We'll come in as a fractional sales department and deploy this entire system for you. Now, let's go over the onboarding of new reps, right? So you know how to recruit, you know how to hire reps. The next thing is going to be how do you ramp them up to KPI as fast as possible. So let's break down the onboarding and ramp up process. So now we need to have basically onboarding and ramp up is just a system that can turn a new hire into a high performer quickly in a systematic and leverage way. Okay, because the last thing you want to do is you always hire people, they churn, you put a lot of time and energy that you invest into them, and then the person churns. So again, the goal is to have a way that does not take as much time from your end every new hire that come on, because in a sales team, there's going to have some turnover, it's going to have some people come and go. So you just want to make sure you have that dialed in. Now, how do we do that? The sales playbook. I love this. This is an awesome tool. It's very leverage, and again, it's a bitch to build, but once you do it once, it's basically your course for your salespeople. It's pretty much going to be evergreen, and then you'll keep doing some updates as you go, but that's going to be the main tool to leverage while you do your ramp up and onboarding, right? So basically what you want to go over in there is pretty much like give all the SOPs, the systems, the knowledge, transfer of knowledge on the offer specific, company specific, and then position specific to the team. And that's going to act as like their Bible that they always go back to as a reference. Okay. So again, just a couple of things can go over. There can be more, but those are the main things you need. Okay. Again, I pretty much covered most of them, but basically point A is like the offer and product knowledge. So what's the offer? Who is it for? What's the framework, like our unique mechanism, just so they understand it. Some case studies, example of results of people using the service, using the product. What was the outcome for them? Some frequently asked questions and the answers to those, common objections, answers as well. So those are based on the offer and product knowledge. You don't want to give too much away because people are going to get into weeds and too technical on calls, but you just want to give enough so that they can do a great job and actually sell your offer well. From there, sales scripts, right? So your triage script, your full call scripts, setting, closing scripts, objection handling framework, pricing, the different packages, deposits, PIF, the payment plan, how do you go about those, like a waterfall system. So everything about sales scripts. The third part, CRM training. So what are the different pipeline stage? How do you move the deals? Like how do you put the notes? How do you go a certain list? If you're a setter, if you're a closer, like what to do, tagging conventions. How do you format the notes? What's the follow-up process? So just documenting how to use the CRM. The CRM is the main tool that reps are going to be using as well. So the fourth thing, KPI expectations. So what's the close rate target? What's the show rate target? Setter goals, the daily activity, minimum requirements, the standards for follow-up, and what's the reporting like cadence, like when are the meetings, how many meetings a week, what time are those, what's expected of them filling out trackers, filling out their EUDs, right? Those kind of things. Fifth thing, SOPs and processes. So again, it's pretty much everything they need to do in their position, right? For the company and for the position. So how to run, how to manage their calendars, how to prepare for their calls, what happens after they make a sale. So what's the handoff to the fulfillment team? What's the handoff of their setter to a closer? Like how do they do that? How to properly reschedule someone, how to communicate in Slack, the different channels, different etiquette, how to log or bring up any issues, how to use different softwares or systems as well outside of the CRM. So again, you just document those. Call library, the top 10 best sales closer calls to study, top 10 best setter calls that you can study as well for reference, different situations with different ICP. So you could have different scripts or different, again, way of selling if they talk to this type of prospect or this type of prospect or businesses, right? Some training recordings, meeting recordings that are specific to cover certain objections, certain situation. Again, some call review recordings of like a Loom, you reviewing a sales call from someone else. Then we have the leadership and culture expectation. So the meeting attendance rules, what are the standards, how is feedback given in the company, how performance is measured, what happened if they fall behind, like what's the expectation, what's the process from there, they out, do they have 2 weeks to get up to KPI, and all those things, right? So that's where your sales playbook. Again, this is like gonna be a massive, you could do it either in a Google Doc. I really like this format here, and I plug a bunch of title. It's like very organized like this. And there's some tags, there's some looms, there's some videos, some documents that are referenced in the main documents. And that's like constantly evolving. I like the Google Doc format because you can change it and adapt it very quickly if there's some changes made. The other thing you could do is you can upload it into Circle, into School, like a training portal or platform, or Kajabi. But again, it's just like, I feel like it's just harder to re-edit if there's some changes made afterwards. So that's why I really like the Google Doc personally. But again, many ways to do it. And that's sort of sales playbook. Now, we're going to go over the different stages of ramp up. So what happens week by week, a little bit like of the schedule, the timeline for new reps coming on the team. So the first stage, and again, those days can change like this, just so to give a general idea of how that can look like. Stage 1, day 1 to 3, orientation, foundation. So give them access to the playbook, the training, walk them through the CRM, you intro them to the team, to the manager, you review the script with them, review some calls. Again, you just have them go through the playbook, and then you have a call with them, just making sure they understand everything, answer their questions, everything. Start doing some role plays. They understand what are KPIs, they understand the projections, and they learn the schedule expectations for their ramp up, like we're going there. What's expecting of them, when, but it's basically them going through the playbook, them attending meeting from there. Stage 2, day 4 to day 7, script mastery and shadowing. So if I'm a closer, they'll review and shadow sales calls. I'm not really big on shadowing, but that's something you could do. Just shadow, like have them join a few sales calls with the top rep, so they could just mute themselves, close their camera and see. Have them review sales calls, have them practice the pitch, practice their tonality, how to sound. They can do some role plays with other reps on the team or the manager. They have some FAQs with the manager or other people on the team, just asking questions in Slack, and they start practicing objections as well. Okay, so that's the closers, setters. They learn to triage questions. They understand the qualifying logic of who is a qualified lead, who is not, for what we do, for who we're looking to bring on calls. They practice like the SOPs of how to book calls. They can shadow or review calls of the top setter, and they understand, like, again, the lead scoring, lead qualification. Who do we want to set? Who do we don't want to set? Who can we help? Who can we not help, right? That's for the stage 2. Stage 3, we get them rocking. Okay, so that's about a week to do everything we discussed. Now, that's basically the second week of them on the team, is the half volume phase. It can be lower than half, but the closers can take 1 or 2 live calls a day, up to 3 maybe, but no more than a half calendar. The manager, the sales trainer audits their calls. We give them feedback on the calls. They attend the weekly meetings, the daily meetings, and then we can have some one-on-ones every week with them, and they start the following process. But again, the goal here is we do that slowly so that we don't burn and light up a bunch of like cash, either on ads, marketing, or lost opportunities. So they can start get their feet wet, and we give them feedback as we progress, basically. For setters, they start doing outbound. The goal is 1 to 2 sets a day. From there, they are independent. They learn the process, the workflow, and manager QC their pipelines, their notes, just making sure that they're not falling behind. They understand how to do everything there. Manager can QC some calls as well from the get-go. Just make sure the quality is good and the quality is there, right? From there, based on how good they are, that's where you ramp up the volume, okay? So I'm not necessarily going to put them yet like full volume. If someone's crushing it like qualitatively and quantitatively, like they sound good on the phone, they get good results, then we can ramp them up faster. But then you can ramp that second week to 3 or 4 calls a day if they're a closer. We should start seeing some conversion happening. Usually top performers will close a few calls in their first 10, or in the first 5, they'll already close their first deal. So that's usually a good sign that we have a top performer there that's going to make the cut. We should start seeing some conversion. They start getting confident. The manager keeps spotting some weaknesses and coaching them on it. They have 15, 25 calls on their belt by the end of that stage, basically. The setters, they do 2 to 3 sets a day. Again, they're set to show, like their show up rate is monitored and improved upon. They leave some notes, they keep the CRM clean, and maybe at that point they're starting to see some sets closed, but there's a bit more of a lag with setters since they're the one that put them on the closer calendar, so there's a bit more of a delay there. So that's the stage 4, and the last stage is basically day 21, day 30 is like the KPI validation. This is where you see the truth. You can spot, by the way, very quickly if someone is going to crush it or not, based on the results they get early on, how they're coachable and those kind of things. But some people are a bit slower to ramp. So we want to give the benefit of the doubt. As long as there's no red flags and the quality of the work is high, the inputs is high, right? But the closers, by that time, they already had 25 to 40 calls. We could see the close rate kind of like have a trend with the close rate, what their close is going to be. They're better at handling objections. They have consistent follow-up. They take notes as well. And from there, they're pretty much a month in. They're not KPI for the full month, But if you look at that week specifically, they should be pretty much at like the KPI by that time for that week. But again, they're not a KPI because they burned some calls at the beginning while they were ramping. So they should not be too far from the KPI as the other reps, right? By that time, the setters, 2 to 3 sets a day, that's the baseline. Notes are improving. Their show rate is stabilizing. They have some deals. The pipeline is built on the closer side of their deals coming through. And they have some good follow-ups habits as well. Now, when do you fire? Okay. So for closers, the expectation are basically they need to be coachable, follow structure, take the feedback, improve each week. They show a trend in quality of their calls qualitatively and then quantitatively or statistically by the numbers, right? They don't repeat the same mistakes, they implement the feedback, and they hit, again, 50 to 70% of the KPI by day 30. Now, when do you fire or cut? If they're not coachable, if they're emotional, they're defensive, maybe they skip meetings, they skip trainings, they can't run a clean discovery, they're stuck sub 10% close rate after even 25, 30 calls, their pipeline agent is sloppy, they're not doing the follow-ups, and they're inconsistent in their work, or maybe they're always late, okay? By 50 calls, you should know 100% if they're in or out. So that's for the closer side. Again, if there's some red flags early on, you can address them and then you can fire them if they don't fix them quickly. You don't need to get to the 50 calls mark to know that. Expectations for the setters. So a setter must make high volume of touches. Again, you can see their input and their work ethic. You can see the outcome. Those are two different things. So they hit their 2 to 3 sets a day by week 3. Keep tight notes. They don't disappear for hours. They're very responsive in Slack and communication channels. They're coachable, higher energy. They follow up, and they have a show rate of at least 50, 60%. We want to cut if they are sub 1.5 sets a day by week 2 or less than 2 sets a day consistently by week 3. Sets to show rate is sub 40% for 2+ weeks in a row. They're lazy with their notes. They don't follow up. They're inconsistent, or they don't follow the rules of scheduling people. Maybe their lead quality suck that they put on the calendar. They're inconsistent and they can follow directions. So again, the setters, we know pretty quickly if they click or not because it's a high input role. And again, it's like, are they doing the activity or not? And then how are they doing it? We can know pretty quickly. Now we want to immediately cut setters if they're not coachable, they have low energy, they're really big on excuses, they're unstable emotionally, they're not showing up to trainings, they complain about the lead's quality, they talk a big game, but they don't perform, and then they don't apply the feedback. So any of those, again, for setters and closers, are going to destroy the culture. So you want to cut very quickly. So some key points on onboarding/ramping. So again, onboarding is all about speed of feedback. So the tighter the feedback loop, the quicker we're going to be able to see if they're going to make the cut or not. So you want to make sure that we review calls, give feedback, see if they implement or not, see what's the results right after getting the feedback. Again, the reps, they don't need more information, they need more reps. The faster we get them into the work, on calls, basically, the faster we're going to see how well they're going to do. So we don't want to take, like, I know people take weeks and months to onboard someone and have before they get on sales calls. That's like way too long. Like, you're dragging way too long that process, and it's going to be way too long before you know if they're going to perform or not. So again, you need to get them on calls as fast as possible. Every new hire is innocent until they're proven inconsistent. You want to protect your culture by getting rid of people early on. A great onboarding system is going to reveal a rep's potential very quickly. A maybe rep is a no 90% of the time. So if you have a feeling this person is not going to make it, likely they're not going to make it. So might as well cut them early on than just drag them and lose the money, lose the time and the energy in it. In the first 30 days ramping up, the manager is like super involved in their development as well. If they are not hitting expectations early, they never will. Replace slow rampers fast. The bench is always active. So again, ramp up should be as fast as possible. We don't want to like rush necessarily and skip steps, but we want to be able to see very quickly or not if they're going to make it or not, and put them in the best position possible to succeed in the role, of course, right? Again, onboarding is not a month long before they get on calls or anything. It's like a filter. It's a training process, and it's like, how can we get them as fast as possible on calls and have them perform as well at the same time? And the manager must own that entire ramp up process and be super tight with the new hires, okay? So now that we have an onboarding and ramp up process that helps people get up to KPI within like 3 to 4 weeks, okay? Let's talk about the systems that are gonna hold everything together and make sure things are predictable, consistent when it comes to meeting, trainings, CRM, and forecasting revenue as well. So on the systems, now that we've covered that, again, talent is great, scripts are great, but if we don't have the right systems, then we're not gonna be able to scale predictably. So why do systems matter? Systems create consistency, they create predictability, and creates also scale. Without systems, things are just going to fall off. You can maybe scale short term, but without those things, again, you're relying too much on your reps and your performers. And I'd rather have such a good system that I can have lower performers perform like they're top performers than having a system that I need to have really high top performers, because they're harder to find, they're harder to keep on the long run. And if I don't have the systems and they leave, then, or I don't have the reps to sustain over a long period of time, systems are not going to be there to support the growth and the consistency of the company. So again, systems over talent. And once you have the systems, and if you have the better talent, then it's going to be a win-win, right? Without systems, you get random revenue. You can't predict, forecast. It's like very emotional, very reactive. It's a chaos in the pipeline. The reps do their own thing. They're kind of winging it, right? There's no accountability. And then we don't have data. So it's easy to externalize responsibility when we don't have clarity of what's actually going on, what's broken, what needs to be fixed or not, right? With systems, you can get more stable close rate, higher show rates. You have clarity, predictability, accurate hiring and scaling decisions. You have momentum and you can achieve scale. The first part of systems, sales meetings. Okay, so sales meetings are one of the most important part of running a successful sales department. They're one of the most leveraged tasks like either you as a founder or a manager can do. Okay, because again, like if you think about it, if we are online culture, where are the touch points? There's Slack and there's on meetings, right? So there's really high touch point for that. And also it's a really leveraged point for you as a business, as a manager, or maybe chief sales officer, because you are in a one-to-many environment. So either for announcements, coaching, again, accountability, do it at that scale. It's just like, let's say you have 10 people and you run for an hour, then that's like 1 hour work for you with 10 hours of output with 10 different people, right? You can set the tone, builds a culture, and you can train the team in that environment, right? The cadence for meetings is going to depend on your team size. Okay, there's many ways to skin the cat, so it's really going to be dependent on that. For bigger teams, I highly recommend a daily meetings. If you have a really big team of setters and closers, then what you could do too is you could do a daily meeting per position, or you could have, again, specific trainings for each position, like specific trainings for setters, specific trainings for closers, and then you can have some sales meetings with the whole team on, for example, right? So again, for example here, you can do Mondays, you can do everyone together. Tuesday, you do a setter training. Wednesday, you have a separate setter and closer training or huddles. On Thursday, you have a closer training. And then on Friday, you have everyone together. That can be an example. Again, there's no right or wrong. You do a daily for setters, a daily for closers. Depends on your capacity on your end, and depends the size of the team and the performance of the team too. But again, very high leverage thing here. That's basically what I said, right? So again, you can have the whole week. Each positions have their own individual meetings, or you could just alternate different days, different meetings, different positions. I highly recommend having meetings where you have the setters and the closers on at the same time, because it creates that camaraderie, and then we can troubleshoot issues, make sure everyone's on the same page as well. So again, you don't have to do those every week, but I definitely recommend at least once a month or once a week to have those as well. I like to do projections as well, 2 to 3 times a week. Some people do them daily, but I feel like they kind of lose relevance and it can kind of become daunting for everyone. The bigger teams take longer to do as well. So I'd either do them, for me, I like to do them either Monday and Fridays, or like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'll do them quick. But again, that's on my take on projections as well, as far as that goes. Now, as far as the structure for the meetings, again, many ways to skin the cat. Different meetings can have different structure throughout the week. But overall, what you want to do, I like to do wins, 3 to 5 minutes, very quick wins, personal, professional, puts everyone in gratitude in a positive environment before we go into like the meat and potatoes of business. Cover announcements quickly. Do projections. Today's we do some projections, right? So if we don't do them every day of the week, we'll do them on the meetings that we do them, and then otherwise we go straight into trainings. As far as the trainings, again, there's many things we could do. Call reviews are always really good. You can do role plays, you can do skill development, which is basically you train on a certain part of the call. It's more like a teaching / class environment. You can teach on follow-ups, on how to manage your pipeline, how to confirm your calls, right? What I would suggest is like every week you should do at least call reviews. And then again, based on what you're trying to work and what your team is struggling with, as you identify either in the data, either when you review calls, you can work on certain parts, either of the call, or if they're struggling with managing the pipeline, maybe you do more trainings on that, vice versa, right? And then you have some trainings to adjust talk tracks, script, maybe as you try to prevent objections, or maybe different seasons require a different script because you're in a highly seasonal environment, right? And those kind of things. So that's for the meeting structure. Quick note, building a recruiting engine, filming, training portals, managing this day to day is a full-time job. Okay, most of you watching this are either doing already 150, 200, maybe 250K plus per month. You're the operator and you don't have 40 hours a week to manage this, to recruit, to build training portals, and manage an entire sales floor. So this is exactly what my firm does. We install the recruiters, we install the managers, the tracking system, the culture, and as a result, you get a high-performing sales team. without you having to build it yourself. So if you want to see if your business qualifies for us to come in and deploy this into your business, click the link in the description. Now back into management systems. Now let's go into the CRM aspect. I'm gonna go very basic on this because there's so many things that could go into that. But basically your CRM is your operating systems in your sales department. If you have a messy CRM, your revenue is very unpredictable. The main CRMs that the businesses that we've worked with use are either Go High Level, HubSpot, or Close.com, Close.io. I don't have any personal preferences. Most businesses I've worked with use Go High Level just because of the convenience and the cost efficiency as well behind it. Again, I have no preferences. Everything can be built in each of them, truthfully, as far as like the use case. So I'll just go very broad here, right? So for setters, usually what we'll do is we'll create smart lists for them to dial in the smart list. And those are going to be different buckets that you want them to dial based on different priorities, right? So you dial those first, then those, and if those are empty, you go to the next one. If those are never empty, then we keep working those, basically. So again, depends on your lead flow, depends on the size of your team and all of that, but those are basic ones. So first you have the speed to lead. So that's the basically just calling the new opt-ins, the new application that come in. We want to call those very quickly. So that's the one that every day throughout the day, this should be working. Then you have, again, those can be like all the opt-ins that don't have an application, that haven't booked a call. Have all the people that have an application that have no call booked. People that canceled their calls in the past 21 days. The no-shows in the past 2 weeks. So people that had calls booked but canceled them or no-showed them. People that had an appointment with a closer or an AE, but they did not close. So those are people that haven't been touched in the past 21 to 90 days. So just trying to get some people back on the phone that we already talked to and made an offer to. People that did not buy and have not been contacted in 90 days. People that canceled over 21 days ago, and a no-show. So that's like basically like, and in terms of priority, we could even like put this one in top priority because those are higher intent than opt-ins. But that's how I would work that list from the top to the bottom in that order, because that's the order of how warm and hot those leads are, basically. So that's how I would work that list as a setter. So I'd create those lists. You can create those in the CRMs. And then the other thing you could do is you could have new sequences of, depending on your dialer, either you're doing dialer IO, maybe it's a native in the CRM, but have a cadence as well for each lead to be contacted, like call, text, email within the first 5 days to make sure you maximize the touch points. In the first days, they could be like a sequence built. We usually build a sequence, but I just want to keep it high level and simple for this video. So that's for the setter. Now for the closers, super simple. That's like for the closer pipeline. So you have your booked appointments. So those are all the book calls that come from the setters or marketing. Then they have their no-shows. So when someone no-shows, they move them there. Someone cancels, move them to a cancel calls. If they book a follow-up call, they go to follow-up book. If they're going to close in less than 2 weeks, hot follow-ups. If they're going to close in the 2 to 4 weeks from now, then warm follow-ups. Then long-term, if they're past 30 days out, deposits, sales, and then you have your DQ and bad fits. So, and those are people that are not a bad fit. Maybe they're not qualified financially right now. Again, if someone is not qualified financially, but they're going to close because they're really sold, then I would move them there. But yeah, that's how I would use this. And then that pipeline is always moving. So it's not just like after you have the first call. Again, I'm not going to do a training on pipeline management just here. But again, that's the basic setup for the closer pipeline. Now, as far as CRM rules and hygiene, basically pretty simple. Every deal must have some notes. What's the next action with that person, with that lead, whether I'm a setter or I'm a closer, be in the right stage where they're at. The activity log of what was done in that deal, in that lead or contact, right? Depending on where they're at in the sales process. Follow-up reminders, like either have tasks set up or reminders for the rep to touch base with them. Again, if there's a setter to closer handoff, having notes in there to kind of point the situation with the lead before you talk to the closer. The source of the lead, so where the lead came from, funnel attribution from which ads. Again, that's more from a tracking standpoint on the RevOps side, but that's like every deal, what they need to have. And as far as like the hygiene standard, you don't want duplicate leads. You don't want opportunities or deals that are missing some notes, deals that are untagged, no like follow-ups that don't have any like notification, no like next stage either in the notes or no task created. You don't want deals to be in the wrong stages. And you want the reps following the same format consistently. So it's just simple, right? So when the CRM hygiene is enforced, reps become more consistent, and then forecasting becomes easier because we have more of a process that's structured to know when a deal is going to close moving forward, right? So that's for the CRM side of things. Now let's move into the data and tracking here. I don't want to like overcomplicate this. The goal is to have the best data, most accurate data as possible. What I've seen work best for teams is usually Google spreadsheets. You could also use Airtable, which can create really awesome dashboards and everything. Airtable or sheets are usually the things that are most accurate. A lot of people try and automate tracking and the data, but usually things break with automations. And yeah, at the end of the day, I want the most accurate way. We usually do things very manually, or if it's automated, then it's like based on the end of day reports, which I'll go into in a sec, then that's going to fill the sheets. But I would not go more automated than that, honestly, because you never know like what's the accuracy of things, and you have to deep dive. And again, just have VAs like QC, like make sure, or the manager QC, making sure it's filled the right way every single time and it's actually accurate. But that's all I'm going to say on that. So again, what we want at the end of the day is the data per rep and team wide. And you want to be able to compare month to month reps to themselves, reps to other team members, and totally like month to month, yearly, what do we look like as a team, as a company? Again, just to see how everyone's performing. The goal of data is to be able to have predictability and see where the low hanging fruits, either from an individual standpoint or a team-wide transient standpoint, right? On the setter side, there's a lot there, and there's more than most people track, but I'll explain what everything is and why it's important and how you can track that. So the first metric, total calls, that's basically their activity. How many outbounds did they do? How many of those pick up? So you could track your pickup rate, right? Then talk time, how many minutes on the phone they spent. Again, that's helpful to see based on the pickups, the talk time, was their activity, because basically a setter should be either trying to get on calls or they're either talking to someone. That's what they should be doing. So that's basically the input. Meaningful conversations. So those are any conversations that are longer than 2 minutes. You can either extract that from the CRM or extract that from the dialer of the CRM, or you can have them manually track their meaningful conversations that day. No right or wrong there. Ideally, you can automate that part. But basically, the goal is to identify the ones that picked up and stayed on for at least more than 2 minutes that we had a deeper chat with. And then what you can track is the percentage that's automated in the tracker, percentage of meaningful conversation versus the pickup. So that's the formula. And the goal of that is to see how many people that they actually have a conversation with versus the amount of people that pick up. And if the percentage is lower here, your KPI as a company is going to depend on your acquisition process. And again, what's your offer? And then if there is like they have to qualify super hard or not. But again, here, what you're trying to assess is how good is their opening of their conversation. And based upon their percentage, if they have a lower percentage, that means you have to work the start of the call with the setters so that they can keep people on the phone with them. Then from there, how many people did we propose an appointment for the next step? And how many of those we scheduled? So again, what we want to track here is how many people that we scheduled out of the people that we had a meaningful conversation with. And that's going to track basically the back end of the conversation. Are they good at either, like that can tell you that they're dequeuing a lot of people and maybe they're not setting enough calls. Maybe we're not pitching enough people to book an appointment, or maybe their conversation is just not good after the initial part. So that's to help you identify the bottlenecks with each individual setters, or maybe team-wide as well. And you can compare setters to setters, month to month, for individually or team-wide. Then what I like to track, and that's what a lot of people don't do, and that helps more on the individual level, compare setters to each other and see where the drop off for them in the results. But it's how many sets did they have on the calendar for today, on the closer calendar, how many of those showed up and how many of them closed. Now you might wonder, how do you get that data? Pretty simple. Usually I do that on the next, I'd have them do their trackers in the end of day the next morning. Reason for that is because sometimes setters might end their day before the closers have reported everything, and they're kind of dependent on that. But I would have them track all their sets. So they would know how many sets they have in the calendar for that day. And based on the reporting of the reps or them going and looking the CRM one by one, they can know what was the outcome of each of those sets. So you can know how many of those showed up and how many of them closed. That's going to allow us to track was their show rate, was their show up to close, so their close percentage on their sets that are live, and their set to close percentage. So if they have a low show rate but high close rate, then we know what to work on, which is how to increase their show up rate. Either at the end of the call, how do they set the expectations for showing up? Either the excitement, or maybe they challenge too much in the call. There could be so many things. Maybe the pain and the need for the call, the next step, was not good enough there. So maybe it was how it was pitched as far as a value standpoint. So there's different reasons why. And then there's the close rate as well on the people that show up. So that could be on the lead quality of the people they put on the calendars, maybe how big of a gap they built in the discovery on the set call, right? And that's going to encompass both of them, right? Then you have them track their cash collected and their revenue. So you can compare as well their stats, and you can help them see and track where they're at on a monthly basis for their commissions as well. Then we'll track cash collection percentage, which is this formula, right? To know how much is collected. This is kind of a little bit out of their hands because it's more in the closer hand or the account executive when they do the closing at the end, the objection handling. But again, that's really good to track. Because when you get this, then you can track their cash collected per call book and their revenue per call book as well. So you can see their efficiency as a setter, what they generate in the business. And that is the ultimate metric to compare apples to apples, your team, who's the most profitable person. And again, you can see if some people like don't make a lot of calls, don't set a lot of people, but they have a high cash collected and revenue per sets, then you can know, all right, they just need to set more, vice versa. So it just like helps compare, but I really like having all those data points. And once you have the question here and the input, then it's easy to have the extra formulas, right? That's on the setter side. Now let's go on the closer side. On the closer side, one thing that is not tracked by a lot of people is the amount of available slots. And that's really good to track your capacity. So that's how many book calls that person could have had in their calendars if they were fully booked, right? So again, this can either show you that maybe your closers are underused, so they're not booked enough, or maybe they're overbooked and we need to hire, or we have the capacity to hire other people to fill more slots in the calendars. So that's really good to track. Amount of scheduled calls, how many appointments they got booked in their calendars. Again, slot utilization percentage, that's going to be your scheduled calls versus the available slots. So you can know, do I need to lay off some people? Do I need to hire more? Do I need to spend more on marketing? Again, that can help you identify that and plan ahead with your capacity and the marketing, what you can do with forecasting. Live calls, so how many of those scheduled calls presented themselves? So that's going to allow you to track your show rate. Offers and offer rate, again, I don't use that much, but it's really good to know how many people were live and how many of those we pitched, right? So the reason for this is I don't care about the close rate on offers made. I don't care about that, but this is going to show me, okay, is this person DQing people? Is the lead quality down? Like based on the percentage, if the percentage is lower, then either the lead quality is down or maybe that closer specifically is DQing people he should be pitching and he's trying to protect his time and his energy. Ideally, you want to be above 80% here. Otherwise, if you're lower than that, then it's one of those two. And we need to deep dive like what is what, right? By reviewing calls and seeing what's happening. Deposits, closes, how many deals close. And then you can calculate the close rate. Close rate for me is closes on live calls. So that's the formula. Then I want to track schedule to close, which is encompassing, it's including the show rate as well. So again, this is going to tell you if they have a good show rate and a good close rate, this is going to be higher. And then maybe their show rate sucks, but their close rate is high, but they need to confirm more of their calls. Maybe they're DQing people and pushing them out to not show up because they don't want this to affect their close rate, right? There's many things, but I like this a lot here. This is going to tell you a lot about the efficiency of your sales reps. Cash collected, revenue generated, self-explanatory there. How much cash, how much revenue they collected that day. And then cash to rev ratio. Again, if someone has a lower cash to rev ratio, likely they are, two things could be happening. Maybe they're over pitching. Maybe you have multiple packages. They're pitching higher packages than they should not be. Or maybe two more things could be. One, the lead quality, people can't afford it. Or maybe we're defaulting to payment plans at the end of the call instead of overcoming objections. So it's really good to track there. And then cash collect per call book, revenue per call booked. This is really the North Star. This allows you to see what's the efficiency of this reps, and that encompasses basically their show rate, their close rate, and what's their cash and their revenue, basically their efficiency. Because most companies, like on the marketing side, you would know how much does it cost me to put a scheduled call on this closer calendar, but we don't know how much we generate. This allows you to have your return on ad spend or your ROAS per appointment with each closer, so you can better assess who is the best closer on my team. Usually people are just going to go over close rate, but there's so many more factors. Again, the package size, how much they collect, and those kind of things. So that's going to tell you your cash day one ROAS, and that's going to tell you your revenue ROAS. So you would take this number here, and then you divide it by the cost of putting a call on the closer calendar on average on the marketing side, right? So that's how I would track for the closer side. And then you would want to have either a tracker, Airtable sheet has this per rep. You can compare day to day, month to month, and then you can compare basically the average of the team month to month as well, and rep to the average, rep to each other with that sheet as well. So that's for the tracking. Now forecasting, how do you reverse engineer numbers? Pretty simple. Once we have all this data, it's fairly simple. So what is forecasting is simply what's the monthly revenue target, and we take the number of calls booked times the cash collected per call booked, right? And then it could go deeper into like, okay, how do we get X amount of call booked, then how many leads we need to generate, and you can chunk it down, but that's the essence of it, right? So the first step is to determine what's the team capacity. So example, each closers can handle 6 calls per day, and assuming we have them just work Monday to Friday, on average it's like 22, 20 some days, some months is 20 days, some months is 23. Let's say next month is 22 business days. So that means that each rep can handle 132 calls booked. Now with 6 reps, That means we can handle 792 calls booked in a month, right? Now, if you know that your average cash collected per call booked is $500, then you do your $500 times your capacity, and then you have 396K. So that's, of course, assuming that you can book out 792 calls from either the setters and marketing, or maybe just the marketing side. So that's how much you can generate on your team. Now, from there, you want to identify what's the bottleneck. If you want to get to $1 million a month, and this is what your capacity is based on the current metrics, what is the bottleneck, right? So the bottleneck could be, maybe we don't have enough reps, so we need to have more capacity here. Maybe we don't have enough leads to be able to reach the 792, right? Maybe your cash collected per call booked is too low. So it's like, okay, how can we increase that? Or show rate could be it, or a close rate can be it. Maybe the offer structure, like the cost, the total investment, the way the contract is structured and how we get paid is not good. Maybe we don't have enough setters, right? So again, from there, you want to chunk down and see what's the bottleneck, okay? And that can be situational, can be over like many different scenarios, but that's the essence of it. And then you can work on fixing those bottlenecks one by one. Step 4, again, you reverse engineer the numbers of what that needs to look like. So for example, what you could do is, if you want to reach 1 million, and those are your numbers, you could see how many calls you need to book and increase the volume. So at 500 per calls booked, you need 2,000 calls booked per month, 15 closers, right? Is that realistic? Is that feasible? Would that be profitable enough for us? Work your economics, right? Maybe that's the path of least resistance. The option 2, for example, could be to increase our cash per call booked. And that could be for many reasons. Again, but basically, if we increase our cash call book from 500 to 800, how could we do that? Then we could look into that. But basically, instead of 2,000 calls to hit 1 million, then we roughly, like, we could do the math, but basically we do 1 million divided by 800. That'd be 1,250 calls booked, would give us about 1 million, right? Or we do, again, if we do the 2,000 calls, then we'd do 1.6 instead of doing 1 million. Now, how can we increase the cash per call book? Then we increase the cash to rev ratio. We have more PIFs. We have a better close rate. We have a better show rate. Maybe we charge more. Maybe we have better quality leads, better quality sets, maybe better quality leads, right? There's many ways we could do that. And you just look at your numbers, your trackers, and you see, okay, what's the biggest drop off? What's the highest leverage? That if we fix this, then that increased drastically, like our cash per call book, right? You just work on those metrics. And then from there, step 5 is we just adjust either the marketing or the hiring and the metrics based upon that. So based on the forecast, if our capacity is lower than the revenue target, we hire more reps so that we can meet the capacity needed to reach our revenue target. If we have the reps and the capacity, but our slot utilization, maybe we have too many setters for the amount of leads we generate, then we just scale the ads, scale the marketing. If the marketing is inconsistent to be able to do that, we fix the funnels and the lead flow. If the economics are not good, our cash is too low, then we fix the low-hanging fruit, right? So that's how you can forecast when you have the right data. So again, we can spend a lot of time here. Just want to go briefly on how to do that, and then you can fix it and troubleshoot and dive into your numbers yourself, right? Now, as far as end-of-day reports, the goal of end-of-day reports, and I want each reps on each teams that we work with do an end-of-day report. The goal is to give qualitative and quantitative statistic data on what happens with each reps throughout the day. So we want to see how they're feeling, their moods, and how the calls went actually from a qualitative standpoint. Like, what was the conversation, was the objection, was preventing them, and what were their numbers through the day. And then basically from there, you could literally, how it works, we could just have a form that zaps into a Slack channel. So you have a Google form, a type form. Once it's filled out, the answers zap in Slack. So every day you have those reports going into a specific Slack channel, right? And in essence, we collect the same data as we just went over with the trackers. Like, we collect the same thing, but we don't do like the calculation for the percentage. And we have the qualitative feedback as well to what happened outside of the numbers. So that's what's going to help the managers, the owner, and marketing to monitor what's the activity. We can catch issues and trends early on. Helps us enforce standard. If we see a setter that did 50 dials instead of 200 that day, that's like, what the fuck happened? Why is that? Then we can like fix it right away. Maybe they got sick. Maybe something happened, or maybe they just got lazy that day, or they were just like not motivated, right? I don't know. Then we coach based on the data, prevents to have drift, and then we can keep the pipeline moving as well and audit what's happening day to day. Setter EOD example, again, you can track just the numbers, not do the formulas, have them fill that out, and how many hours you work today, rate your performance, how was your day, where do you need help, boom, they fill that out. Also, the other thing you can do is each meaningful conversations, you can have them outline them in the call. Usually setters are not going to talk with like 30 people in a day or 50 people in a day based on the pickup rate and the amount of dials they do. But again, if they have 10 meaningful conversations, then you can have them outline them. So that's going to be the qualitative thing behind the numbers. And then from there, you can select which calls you want to review on those, or if you see trends, right? That's on the setter side. On the closer side, pretty simple. We'll track the amount of slots. On the closer side, pretty simple. We'll track the amount of slots. What's the date, amount of slots, calls booked, live calls, offers, closes, deposit, total cash, total revenue. We're not going to do formulas. And then you'll have them list all their calls that were booked. What was the outcome, right? So what's the name of the prospect? What was the outcome? Maybe it was a no-show, canceled, what happened, right? If the call happened, what happened on the call was the objections, maybe the payment plan that was laid out of the close, for example, or the next steps, and then little notes on the call, right? So that's how it laid that out. And you have them list this out for all the calls they had booked there. How is their performance? And then how is their day? And then the qualitative is also here. Those are the numbers. So you can see like, okay, seems like he's getting this objection all the time. Seems like those type of avatars maybe he's struggling with, or you can try to see trends, or this can help you see which calls to review as well with one rep. But if you have all the reps saying the similar things, you could adjust your team trainings based upon that. Again, it just helps you see what's happening from a bird's eye view. So that's for the system side of things. Again, there's many more that could have been covered, but that's the essence of it. Now, let's go over the sales process piece. So we'll cover the sales process that I've personally used to close 5 millions myself, and also generate 40 million plus for the teams that we worked or work with right now. So this is the same sales process. Again, there's many ways to skin the cat here. I'll just go over what has worked for me, for us, and the philosophy behind it, okay? Sales philosophy, I really love this 3 Rules of Sales by Taylor Welsh. So again, this is bird's eye view, what's guiding the principles behind the frameworks. But 3 Rules of Sales, this is from Taylor Welsh. Been, again, learning a lot from him from afar. But the 3 rules essentially is if you do those 3 things, if you follow those 3 things, you're doing the right things from a moral, ethical, and also role-specific job standpoint, right? Number 1, your job is to help the person make the best decision for them. At the end of the day, your job is not to collect cash, to help the person make the best decision for them. Number 2, what's best for them will probably be outside of their comfort zone. Again, it's not going to be easy for them to do what's best because it's going to be outside of their comfort zone. And the third piece is that the client is going to fight to stay inside of their comfort zone. So again, there's going to be resistance, but your job is to help them make the best decision for them. Maybe the best decision for them is to do it. Maybe the best decision for them is to not do it. And maybe it's to do something else. Your job is to have them make the best decision for them. And then again, the client is going to fight to stay inside of their comfort zone, and their decision is likely going to be outside of their comfort zone, the right thing to do for them, right? So those are the 3 rules to run by. I really like them from a philosophy and foundation standpoint. So our job, again, is not to close someone, collect money, or force someone to do something they don't want to do, or maybe that's not best for them. Our role is to help the person, whatever that means for this person. So again, not for everyone are going to be right for what you do. Maybe some other things are going to be better for them. Maybe the best thing for them is not going to be to do it. Maybe it's going to be to wait. Maybe it's going to be to do it as well. So again, that's our job as sales professionals. How do we do that? By asking skilled questions, unpacking and finding the truth, and making people come to their own realizations through the conversation they have with us, okay? So we're not going to force someone, not going to tell someone what to do. But again, that's our job. Now, other guiding principles that I like is internal pressure versus external pressure. Internal pressure is the pressure that comes from internally from the person. External is pressure that's applied from external force. So what we could do is, again, internal pressure is like building urgency, building a certain pressure to do something inside of the prospect by asking questions like such as their pain points, what are their goals, right? And building that pressure from that standpoint internally by asking questions so that they can realize, oh yeah, this is really important. I need to fix this. I need to do something about this like right now. That's building internal pressure. External pressure is going to be more like you telling them what to do. Maybe we try to use tactics on them, such as, hey, if you don't sign up today, tomorrow is going to be like 2,000 more. If you don't sign up today, we don't want you as a client. You'll never have another chance to sign up. Yeah, again, there's many ways, but it's more like sleazy tactics, or you tell someone, yeah, you need to do this right now. Like that's external pressure. So again, we want to use internal pressure, not external pressure. Now, sales philosophy, again, our goal, our job is to identify and create a gap between point A and point B. Point A being their current situation, point B being their desired outcome or situation. So the bigger the gap here, the more and the higher the need from the prospect standpoint. That's the idea behind it. And your product and solution is to be positioned as the bridge behind that point A and that point B, because that's the essence. And people don't buy your product, your offer, or your service. They buy what it will do for them, like what's going to be the outcome for them. That's what they buy. They don't buy a drill that does holes like in a wall. They buy the hole in the wall and like what that does for them. Well, I'm going to be able to fix this, to do this, right? That's what they buy. The way you do things, or your strategy for weight loss, what they buy is the weight loss, like is the outcome of them actually losing weight and being able maybe to do it in an efficient way, maybe in a fun way, or maybe in a way that's not as painful as another way. So that's what they buy, right? Now, as far as the call structure or the sales process structure, so the best structure is going to depend on your acquisition process, like how much friction there is or not in the marketing. So whether that's leveraging DMs on social, like a DM setting process, maybe it's outbound phone setting, maybe there's inbound triages by a setter first, maybe there's a one call close process, maybe there's a two call close process ran by the closer, like a two-step process. Again, there's many ways to skin the cat, and the best structure is really going to be dependent on your offer, your avatar, your niche, your price point, what's the funnel structure. The goal ultimately is to have a structure, okay, that's replicable, that's duplicatable for your team as you scale, okay, so that we can duplicate it, add new people in, and teach them that process. The sales process is like a recipe or a formula in a restaurant, right? So you want a winning recipe, a winning formula that keeps getting better over time, so we'll keep fine-tuning it, but that can serve as the baseline so everyone sales either the same way or for the most part using the same framework or the same way, right? So that's the idea of it. Usually what I've seen the most is like a one call close process by the closer. So it's main, again, there could be settings from DMs or phone setters, and then the rep is going to be running a one call close process, and that means like we'll do the discovery and we'll do the pitch on the same call. Okay, we're not going to try to break it into two calls and delay the close. Okay, so usually the marketing has either opt-ins, maybe applications that book, setters, outbound. Oh, there's a typo here, outbound dial. If the application is qualified, then we push them to close a calendar. On the marketing standpoint, if in the type form and the form that people fill out, they're qualified, boom, it goes to a closer calendar. And if they're not qualified, either we prevent them from booking, or we can send them to a lower priority or tier of closer, or we can send them to a setter for an inbound triage. That's typically what I've seen the most. What I've seen like work best, like at least that's what I'll say. I'm not a fan of the two call close because it adds a lot of friction, okay? So two call close would be the closer has the initial call, the 15, 20-minute triage. We rebook them to pitch them, present them the offer. There can be a high drop-off rate before that first call with the closer, with the show rate, and then between those two calls. And again, if there could be situations where it's good. If you have really high ticket, maybe the lead quality is like really bad or the show rate is really bad. So we want to have as many like 15-minute slots as possible in there so that the closers are really like picky about who they book for a second call and they maximize their calendars. So that could be a way, but there's typically, again, depends if we want to add frictions or not. Sometimes it can be a good idea, but what I find is a lot of times that it just increases a lot of friction for no reason, okay? So again, could be appropriate depending on those situations here that I just mentioned. As far as the call structure, how to sell, there's many ways to skin the cat. There's different ways to call different stages, different ways to run sales calls. My process, fairly simple. What I like to do is first there's the frame, then from there we go into the current situation, we go to the problem stage, solution, we future pace or build a heaven island. Then we consequence, I forgot to add it here, consequence them, which is like the hell island, we consequence. We do a transition towards the pitch. We pitch them using a pillar framework. Then you do a tie down, then you do price drop, and then you handle objections and you enroll or sign up the person. So that's the sales process I've used the most and I've used with teams the most that has been the more successful. I don't care about the how, I care about the result. And that's what I've seen work best across the board, across multiple different industries, multiple different services and products. And it's fairly simple as well. So I'll just break down each of the steps, bird's eye view, to give you an idea of it. First thing is the frame. Okay, so basically we set expectation, we establish authority, and we reduce the pressure, right? So the purpose is to remove pressure, establish leadership, explain the flow of the call, and set the tone. For example, hey, here's how this call is going to work. Okay, so the goal today is to go over what you're trying to achieve, what's getting in the way right now, see if we can help. If we can, happy to walk you through how it works. If not, I can point you in the right direction. Does that sound good? Yes. So we want to be calm, want to be confident, and we want this to be warm, but we don't want to be in the framework, in the friend zone, sorry. So that's the goal of the frame. Now from here, move into the second piece, which is the situation, pain, problem, challenge. Okay, so I kind of put them together because they can kind of bleed into each other. But here, basically, want to know what's their current situation, why are they on the call, what's the problem, challenge, or outcome they want to accomplish, what they're currently doing now about it, right? Want to chunk down, how long they've been doing that, how long has that been a problem, how long they've been trying to get there. And then basically we want to just deep dive into and chunk down into some of the things they mentioned, right? To get clarity. If they have a problem, then again, that's kind of like how I would dig into the problem. So it's like have them clarify what the problem is, how long has it been a problem, what's the impact of the problem, or how's that making them feel, and what's the repercussion or the consequences if the problem stays a problem. Again, that could be for B2B or B2C. Okay, so that's situation, pain, problem, challenge. Solution, the goal of the solution stage is to pre-handle objections, and then it also to allow you to position your pillars or your pitch based on the needs of the person. So I want to understand clearly like what they've tried or what they're currently doing to solve their problem to reach their goals. Then I want to create also doubt about what they're currently doing or what they're currently trying and make them admit to us that they need to change something and that current solution is not going to work for them. So they need to adopt another solution, which is the goal would be for it to be our product or service if it's a fit, of course, right? We want to know briefly like what they're looking for. Like specifically, again, sometimes some people want someone to do it for them. Sometimes people want to have something that's plug and play. They want to be guided. Like, what do they want? And then why do they want to get the help, the support? Like now, what's the reason for the urgency behind it, like our timing behind it? That's a solution stage, okay? So solution from here, future pace or basically dream island. So what does life look like after solving the problem? So the goal of this is to increase the desire or unpack the desire, build some momentum, make them see the future, make them believe that the future is attainable, is realistic as well. If they don't believe that it's attainable, it's realistic for them, or it's accomplishable, then they're never going to buy any solutions because they don't believe it exists, right? So you want them to see it, feel it, touch it. We want to tie back the emotions to the destination as well. So just some ideas. If this were solved, like what would that look like? If we were to talk 90 days from now, what would the ideal scenario be? Like walk me through what would that look like in your ideal world? What does that mean for you financially? What does that do for the business? What does it mean for you personally, emotionally? Why is that important to you? How does that impact the business? How does that impact like your confidence? Like how does that impact this? Again, you tie back either the pain points or the desire. That's just to show some examples of what that could look like in that stage. So that's for the future pace. Now from there, fifth stage is a consequence. Okay, so the consequence is basically the cost of an action, cost of staying the same, or cost of not solving the problem or hitting their goals, right? So this is the future pace, but it's kind of like the negative version of it. So this is to build pressure without being pushy or salesy. It naturally creates urgency. Bullet points, examples, like if nothing changes, what happens the next 6, 12, 24 months? What's the cost of doing nothing? How much is this costing you right now, having this problem or not being there or not having this solved? Are you okay with it costing you that much? Or you not attaining it? Or you staying in the same place? Yes, no, why not, right? So that's basically the cost of inaction. Like what are the ramification of them staying the same or not hitting the desired outcome? How does that affect them, right? So again, this is huge. A lot of people skip this because they get uncomfortable. But this is where a lot of the money is as far as that goes. This is a lot of the sale is happening there. From that standpoint, it's like you can get a commitment to change that area here. A lot of people explore like the positive, the optimistic side of things, but not a lot of people explore this side. But this side is as important, if not more important than the destination, because that's what happens if they don't do anything about the situation or if they don't hit that. And a lot of people don't want to explore that because it's uncomfortable, it's not fun for the reps and for the prospects too, but that's really crucial. Now transition, for the transition is pretty simple, is the transition from discovery to the pitch, okay? So you want something that's simple, calm, and with authority, okay? You want to tie back what they said to you and the natural next steps from here, examples of what that could look like based on what you shared with me about blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. What we could do here could absolutely help, okay? This is what we do. We help people just like you that are here and want to go there. And yeah, if you like, I'd walk you through how we can help you specifically with this. How would that look like? I can answer any questions, and then we can see if that aligns with what you want as well. But based upon what you shared, I feel like that would be a great fit, or I feel like what we do can absolutely help. Sounds good? Yes. Awesome. Boom. Transition the pitch. Very simple. No need to sugarcoat it. Now for the pitch, many ways to do it. I like without pitch decks. It's just, again, pitch decks can be good, but it can be a distraction if they're not good too. And reps can just drag on too long, but you could do like with a pitch deck, you could do without it. I like without it for, especially for coaching. If you sell more of a service, then more of a done for you solution or a service like agency services, those kind of things, a pitch deck can be really good. Typically, there's 3 to 4 main pillars. More than that, you can lose people. For each pillars, pretty simple. You want to go like follow the same process, right? So you start with the problem they described, you tie each pillars to a pain point or a goal that they share. Keep the pitch simple, no long monologue. You don't future dump. You don't use too complicated jargon. And you want to time check between the pillars to see if they're following, if they're tracking. Don't want to go like for 10 minutes, pitch, and you come back, it's like, hey, how's that sound? And they're like lost. I want to have a bit more of a conversation after going over something specifically. I kind of want to see where they're at, how that aligns with what they want, and just see if we're on the same page as far as that goes. Right? Pillar is pretty simple. It's like, hey, you remember how you were telling me about X, Y, and Z and ABC earlier? Where this is exactly what we're going to do here to solve this. And this is the reason we built it this way because of blah, blah, blah. And this specifically is going to help you with X, Y, and Z because of X, Y, and Z. Okay. Does that make sense to the first pillar? Yes. Any questions on this? No? Awesome. So the second thing we're going to do is this. I know you were telling me that, and then you would just tie back to what they're saying, right? Once I hit my 3 to 4 pillars, usually it's like 3. Once I hit my pillars, and I'll go briefly into the deliverables. Should not take too long, okay? So first, how is it going to be structured? Basically, hey, this is going to be a 6-month process. First, you're going to get access to a one-on-one coach. Second, you'll have blah, blah. And the third thing, you'll have access to our community, right? So that's how it's going to work for 6 months. Does that all make sense? Any questions on that? Again, I don't want to like feature dump or put too much there. Just want them to understand logically how it's going to work, how is like the pillars are going to be delivered to them, what they can expect from a support standpoint, what's included from that capacity. So that's the deliverable. So you pitch the 3 pillars, then you go into the deliverables. Okay. Again, that's an example for a pillar. Remember how you're telling me that you're struggling with X, Y, and Z? It's exactly why we created this here. First thing is we'll do is pillar 1. The goal here is Y. What we'll do is X, blah, blah, blah. Do you see how this can help you? And then the pillar, right? So the pitch should not be longer than like 5 to like 12 minutes. Depends on what you sell, but longer than that, you're going to lose people. And I'd rather you spend that time in the discovery to build urgency, build a gap, dig deeper into the pain, to dig deeper into the ideal solution so that you can tailor the pitch to the person and build the value. The value is not built in the pitch, it's built in the discovery by creating the need for the solution, right? So that's the goal of the pitch, and that's how to do it. There, I do a tie down, okay? Before price drop, I want to get a temp check to see where they're at. There's many ways to do it, okay? The goal is to clear any questions, any doubt, any insecurities, clear anything before we drop the investment so that when we drop the investment, the only thing we have to deal with is the money and is the logistics and maybe a little bit of fear or Q&A. But the goal is to really get rid of as much as possible beforehand, okay? So again, before going into the tie down, you could ask something like, hey, so that's everything. That's how our service works. Do you have any questions on this? Any things you want me to clarify? Or what do you have questions on? Boom, go over that. And then from there, you do a tie down on certainty. So do you feel like this can help you solve blah, 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 or get to X, Y, and Z goal? Based on their answers, you look for the conviction, the certainty, and the uncertainty. You look for the verbal and the nonverbal cues, and then you work those right then and there. You don't move on until you have certainty and clarity, right? And then you can double down. It's like, oh, yes, I feel this is awesome. If they don't mention why this is awesome or why they feel like it can help them solve or reach their goals, I can double down. Like, well, why do you feel that way, right? And I just double down. It's going to have them defend their position even stronger, even further, and it's going to help us as well. So again, if there's any shakiness, uncertainty, fear, or doubt, I'd call it out. I'd want to unpack this right then and there before moving forward, okay? From there, what we do, we go into the price drop. Again, you want to drop this like calmly, matter of fact, no hesitation, no friction, very clear, very simply. For us to help you solve this, or for us to help you accomplish this, it's just a one-time investment of X, or it's just a monthly investment of X for X amount of time. Again, I don't want to like make this more complicated, but stupid simple. People don't buy if things are confused. Buyer doesn't buy. Okay, so again, we want to keep this super simple. From there, for the close, I really like assuming the close. If they don't want to do it, they'll object anyway, and it's just going to speed this up. So just say something like, all right, well, that's everything. You could either go like, how do you want to go from here? But again, I like to assume it more. All right, well, that's everything. Like if we got this far, basically, it's like assuming that we're moving forward. So, all right, well, ready to get started? Just do softly, or ready to get started with some homeworks. That's a line from Cole I've used a lot to close. Ready to do next steps, ready to start your onboarding. Again, just like something super simple. A lot of people are uncertain of themselves, and if they feel like this is the natural next steps, then they'll just follow your lead and move forward. People are lost. People don't know what to do typically. So I'm not forcing them to do anything. At the end of the day, if they want to get started, they'll have to take out their credit card. They'll have to read the digits or put them on the screen themselves. So I'm not going to force you to do something you don't want to do. But I like to assume, and if someone doesn't want to do it, then we cut straight to it because they'll say, yeah, actually, no, I want to do this. Like, oh, okay, no problem. Boom. We already had the objection, right? Any objection handle. And again, we won't go over objection handling. That's going to be just make this video way longer than it's already is. But again, I just want to give an overall framework of the sales process. Okay. Now, from sales process, let's go into sales management. So the systems gives you some predictability, but systems alone are not going to be enough. You still need someone to make sure it's followed and QC, quality control it, someone that enforces the standard, coaches a team, and keep the revenue machine moving. And this is where sales management comes in, or sales director, sales management, right? So what sales management actually is, most founders think that a sales manager is just someone to review calls or keep the team motivated and like hooray and just screams on meeting, but it's actually very different, okay? Sales manager is responsible for the performance of the team, accountability, making sure the team is consistent, enforces the culture, coaches and develop the reps, the daily numbers, the pacing for the month where we're at, help fix the pipeline, the inefficiencies, help the reps push their deals forward, diagnose problems, communicate between the sales and the marketing as far as like the feedback on the volume, on the quality of what's happening between the two. They protect the standards. They get rid of bottom performers and B, C, D players. They ensure the reps individually and the team hit their numbers. And they are there to support the reps either on meetings, off meetings, ongoing, basically. So a good rep can generate like a lot of money and some revenue, but a great manager can make a team and a company generate millions, if not like tens of millions, okay? So that's what sales management is. There's a lot to it. Now, as far as the daily responsibilities, okay, so that's the core of the role. One, run the daily meetings, monitor KPIs. They review end of call reports, end of day reports from the day prior. They review the pipeline, they review calls, Slack support throughout the day, and they do one-on-ones as needed. So that's pretty much what the role is as a sales manager. Weekly responsibilities, audit the pipeline, they do some team trainings, they look at the projections, look at the forecast. They are actively recruiting every week to keep the bench full, and they communicate with marketing on lead quality, lead flow, capacity, as far as that goes. Monthly responsibility, performance review with reps that are underperforming, look at the data as well, do forecasting. They update scripts and process as needed when it's needed, and they report their leadership. Now, those, again, some of the things here can be interchangeable, but I just broke them down to give a bit of an idea because some are going to be more frequent than others, right, in the role. Now, what makes a great sales manager? Okay, the traits. One, they have really high standards. If you have low standards, you'll have a low culture and you'll have low revenue. Direct communication, so they're not sugarcoating. It's no ambiguous. It's really black and white. It's clear. Everyone's on the same page. They're high support, so the reps and the team must feel safe being coached by the manager and the person in place in that role, and safe to open up to them as needed. They're calm under pressure. So again, if the team panics, if the manager panics, the team collapses. If you have a manager that's reactive, the team is going to be reactive. So again, if the team is panicking, then they have to be able to lean on a manager that's not panicking, that's calm, and then they'll see that they're calm. They're like, oh, okay, there's actually no fires, it's just me. So again, they have to be calm under pressure. They're data driven, so they coach based on numbers, not emotion. They're stable emotionally, okay, because sales can be very emotional with reps as well as far as that goes. So leaders cannot be emotional. You have to be data driven. And you have authority. So the reps respect managers because they know what they're talking about, and they can close themselves. They can help themselves as well. If a manager does not have the authority and the respect of their team, then it's already a lost battle from the get-go. They're not going to listen. They're not going to obey to whatever is trying to get enforced by a manager or the ownership. So that's like really important. Now, what kills sales management? You want to avoid these is acting like babysitters and micromanaging, right? If a manager avoid conflicts, not good. You have to be able to have a tough conversation with your team or with individual reps. Managers that want to be liked more than respected, doesn't work, doesn't cut it. They don't do any pipeline audits. They don't QC calls, or they don't QC at all. They don't do any meetings. They don't do any planning or forecasting. They let excuses slide and build in the team. That's going to build into the culture. They hire bad talent. They keep poor performers too long. The CRM is, again, they don't monitor the CRM. That goes to the QC, but CRM is a mess, right? And they don't have a good communication with the marketing or the leadership team. Now, when those exist, revenue becomes random. Okay, so if we don't have stability there, then it's hard to have stability in the revenue. So super important. Now, why is management the leverage point? Okay, with strong management, again, numbers are going to increase. So the close rate can increase, the show rate can increase because we put systems, SOPs, we troubleshoot it. PIF percentage can increase because of the coaching, revenue stabilize, reps stay longer when you have really strong management. Culture is stronger, forecast becomes more accurate, and scaling becomes more predictable with the right data, with the right culture, with the right team members. Then all that can become more predictable, more stable, right? So that's sales management. That's the structure, the accountability, the coaching, the consistency that powers high-performing sales teams. But also, behind sales management, there's something even greater that's underneath all this, okay? So that's something deeper that's going to determine whether people stay on or don't, and if they're consistent or not, and if your revenue and your team is going to be stable or not over the long haul. And that's going to be culture and leadership. All right, so we covered the recruiting, the onboarding, and the management systems. This is the infrastructure that allows you to scale past $1 million a month. But here's the reality. If you're trying to build this all yourself while also doing the marketing, the product, and the operations, you're likely going to burn out. And we can come in and install this entire sales department, all the pieces into your business for you. So we're going to headhunt the talent. We are going to build the training assets. We're going to install the tracking. We're going to manage the team daily. Okay. So if you're doing over 100K per month in cash collected and you're ready to scale past the 7-figure mark, click the link below. We'll look under the hood of your sales operations and tell you exactly where your bottlenecks are. Now from here, let's talk about culture, and I'll show you some case studies as well. Your sales team is never going to outperform the expectations, the standards, and the energy of the leader. Okay, the leader is kind of like the top cap of the bottle, and they're never going to exceed that, right? So again, you can have the best offer, you can have the best funnel, the best ads, the best recruiters, the best closers, the best CRM, but if the culture is weak, your performance is going to be inconsistent. Your A players are going to leave. B players are not going to become better. And your C players are going to drag the team down with them. Okay. So what is culture? Culture is the standards that you enforce and the behavior that you reward. Okay. And it's the environment that you create and that you groom in the team. So where does culture live in? You showing up on time, reps showing up on time to their meetings, the team meetings, updating the CRM properly, following the script, people being coachable, people taking responsibility, taking ownership, having high energy, pushing to hit their projections, doing our follow-ups, keeping the pipeline clean, being in the meetings, stop having excuses, again, taking ownership. You get the culture that you tolerate, not the culture that you want. Okay, so whatever you tolerate is going to be the culture that you have. How is culture built? You build it in your daily meetings, in your end of day recaps, one-on-ones, when you review calls, how you respond to when people give you excuse, how fast you give feedback, how consistently you check the pipelines, how you set projections, how you celebrate the wins, how you address the losses, how you give feedback, right? That's how you build the culture that you want. A high performance culture equals a high frequency leadership. A low performance culture is like occasional or non-present leadership. Now, recognition and competition community, okay? That's a part that's often missed. Salespeople are performers and they respond strongly to recognition. So to create a culture that's elite, you must celebrate the wins publicly, review great calls, put leaderboards on display, highlight efforts, highlight results from your team members, celebrate improvements, reward consistency, recognize progress, right? And you must also encourage friendly competition, team cohesion, shared goals, and support. You don't want it like a toxic sales team environment, but in a sales team, competition is welcomed and helps with performance. People are going to compete with each other, see who's going to be top, who's going to be second. Well, am I going to beat him or not? Right? So you want to create that camaraderie where people help each other, but also competing against each other. So we're a team, but also like, again, like at the end of the day, a sales team is a meritocracy. So you want to reward the higher performers. The higher performers should make more money. They should have the most qualified leads. They should have the most amount of leads because they're the higher performer and they drive most of the revenue in the business. And you want to reward those. You want to call those out publicly. You want to give the accolades because, again, salespeople tend to have a high ego, a big ego for the most part, and they like that recognition. They like being seen by other people. They're competitive as well. So again, being seen by others as the top person or as the person that improved the most, or maybe, again, just getting highlighted in front of everyone is going to be highly appreciated from your top performers and from your team in general. And so again, when closers cheer for closers, the culture is strong. When closers resent other closers, if you have a closer resent another one because they close a deal and not them, then again, that's where the culture is broken. Okay, so the culture is performance psychology in the end. So the stronger your culture, the stronger your team, and likely the stronger the growth and the scale that you'll be able to accomplish based upon that. Okay. Leadership. Again, we touched a little bit on that sales management. Again, this is not something that's talked about a lot. Leadership, culture, like it's intangible a bit more, right? But it's felt by the team. And you can see it by the mood of the team, the feeling of the team, and how people are following through on things or not. Okay. So sales is emotional, it's energetic, it's momentum driven, it's belief driven. And because of that, leadership, it's not just tactical, it's also emotional. So as a manager, or you as the owner temporarily, you must bring like high standards, high expectations, and clarity, and also emotional safety, encouragement, consistent feedback. You have to care about your team and be committed to their growth personally and professionally. That's something in leadership that a lot of people have and forget. It's all about the numbers, it's all about the performance, it's all about the money. But at the end of the day, your salespeople are people, and they're going to care about you, your team, and the results if they know that you care about them. So again, it's not about what you say, but it's about your actions. And again, checking with your reps, making sure they're okay, like getting to know them personally. What are their biggest motivators? What is their drive? And being there to support them personally, professionally, but as a person more importantly. Again, and creating that safe space with them, and be committed to their growth and challenging them, holding them accountable for them, for their goals, for their growth, not for you, not for your numbers or anything like that, right? So, and people can smell that, people can feel that. So you can't fake that, unfortunately, for the people that like to fake. I don't say that, unfortunately, as, oh, like I wish this could be fake. But again, you can't go around this. People know, people feel that, and they know how much you care, and they can feel how much you care or how much you don't. So you can't fake that shit. People can smell through it. So leadership, you want to be direct and supportive. You can't just be one or the other. The best leaders are tough and compassionate. Okay, you want to be calm under pressure. When leaders panic, team collapse. And panic when leaders stay calm, the team trusts them. You want to be energetic but trusted. Okay, so you bring energy, not chaos. You bring urgency but not panic. You're data driven, you're not emotional. Okay, so you don't believe stories, you believe in data, and you coach on reality, not excuses. Ultimately, too, leadership is the ultimate, leadership and culture, I would say, is the ultimate retention strategy. Okay, because money is going to keep the reps happy, but leadership is going to keep them loyal. Okay, because what happens if, let's say, your funnel goes down, your ad goes down, maybe you have a couple bad months with your company or in your industry or in your market, and the reps stop making the money they're making that was making them stay. Are they going to leave? Are they going to stay? Are they going to like double down with you or not, right? If you have great leadership, people are going to stay even if their income drops, or if they have no income coming in for a little bit, they'll stay on because they'll believe in the leader, they'll believe in the team and the vision and the company, in the culture, and they'll stay on, they'll fight for you, they'll be loyal as well. So that's the ultimate retention strategy. You can't make that up. A players don't leave high standards. They don't leave great coaching. They don't leave structured leadership, strong culture, a path to growth, consistency, a team that wins. They leave chaos. They leave poor leadership. They leave lack of standards, excuses, weak culture, inconsistency, poor communication. Again, this is something that costs literally $0, but they're priceless. And they're not as miserable and trackable, but they can have a huge impact on the results of your team and the bottom line at the end of the day. It's not just about that, but again, those are often things that get forgotten in such a performance position, but they matter almost more than the data, because if you have reps that are not as good, but the culture is high performance, you have great leadership in place, people are going to fucking like grind to their, like till their face falls off, and the results are going to follow. So again, that's for culture and leadership, okay? And that's the difference between teams that are consistent and inconsistent, the teams that perform for years, months in a row, and the teams that kind of just hit a milestone and then they go back to their normals, okay? So again, that's one of the core reasons why some of our clients scale past that 750K, that million a month mark, and stay there, is because of leadership, because of culture. Okay. Now, a couple of case studies. Okay. So you're wondering if those processes and systems work. Again, this is what we use to generate anywhere from 1.5 to 2 million per month in revenue every single month for our clients. And this is the exact process that we've used to scale a crypto trading offer from 400K to 1.44 million in 4 months, to scale a B2B loan officer coaching company from 600K to 1.5 million per month in a year and a half, while being in the toughest, more challenging mortgage economy and market in the past 30 years. We did a $2.17 million launch using those frameworks, those processes in 24 hours for a real estate coaching company. We scale a real estate offer from 100K to 450K per month in cash collected in 3 months, and with 2.5x a coaching offer in less than 60 days. Okay, so those are the exact same processes and systems that we've used. So they work, and we've generated over 40 million using those as well. So again, they can work for you as well, as much as they've worked for us. So from here, in conclusion, I showed you the exact infrastructure that's required to build an 8-figure sales team. We covered recruiting, onboarding systems, sales processes, management, culture, real case studies that prove that this works as well. Now you have 3 options from here. Option 1, you can do nothing with this. You can keep this and keep doing everything to yourself. You can keep hitting that revenue ceiling, stress out on every missed calls, and letting your competitors take the market shares that could be yours. That's an option. It's not a good one, but it's an option. Or you could, again, with this, you can run and implement, and you can maybe figure it out too, right? So that's option 2. You can do it yourself. You can take this video, spend a couple months, couple weeks building the portal, the training, trying to find the reps yourself, write the scripts, build the SOPs, build the tracking, hire a manager, maybe promote someone internally. It can work, and I'm not saying it won't work, but it's going to cost you a lot of time, trial and error, and potentially hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in opportunity costs while you figure it out. And you might struggle with hiring the wrong people, building the trainings or systems that don't stick, and managing a team while trying to manage the rest of your business, okay? And the third thing you could do is we can come into your business and this entire sales department for you. We headhunt the talent, we build the training assets, we install the tracking, we manage the team every single day. You focus on being the CEO, the marketing, product, the growth, the stuff only you can do. And if you're a coaching business doing 100K plus per month in cash collected, and you're ready to scale to 7 figures per month, click the link in the bio, book a call with me, and we'll look under the hood of your whole sales operation and tell you exactly where the bottlenecks are. There's no pitch, there's no pressure, there's no hard close or anything. It's just going to be an honest assessment and see if it makes sense for us to work together. And if so, I can show you how we would do that. And you can implement it yourself, or you can work with us as well. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.